Is music store mic a good idea for voice acting? What? Of course. Yeah, sometimes I go to a music store to pick up my audio equipment. Yeah, that's a really good comparison. Music stores are for specialists. Retail is just generalist. I know a lot of early voice actors start on their phone mics now. You know, I first started with a phone microphone and then with a headset microphone, which was terrible, by the way. And then I switched back to a phone microphone, and it was horrible because if you keep recording on your phone mic, you will notice that there are random pops and clicks. That's, again, like I said, is because the sound quality is relying on the sound chip that's installed on your phone. So there's gonna be a limitation. And so when that's not enough, you move on to a USB microphone, and then you're happy for a couple of years, and then you decide to want to do something further, like furthermore with I don't know, with your voice. Then you gotta upgrade to an XLR, and then you're also happy for a couple of years, and then you want to upgrade to something of industry standard. So you just do another one.
Is the difference of USB mic to XLR that huge?
There are USB microphones where you can monitor your own voice, but then with the XLR, you can monitor your voice while being able to listen to the desktop audio, which is awesome. And then you start noticing that maybe your earphones just aren't cutting it because you're editing your voice or something and you want to hear a more broad frequency. Maybe you're even doing mixing on top of that. Then you get a cheap, decent $45 headphone, and it makes you happy. It makes you happy for a few years once again. And then you see other reviews about other headphones, and they're a little more expensive, but it's the old reliable. And so you gotta upgrade. And you're happy for a few years, and then you use your earphones to record. But then one day you start noticing that your ears are starting to hurt and there is some sound leaking from your earphones. And so you realize that there's a closed back headphone. So you get that. You're happy for a few years, and then there are other higher quality headphones out there separately for mixing headphones and closed back headphones. And then semi-open headphones just for casual listening. And so you gotta have your options out. Now that you have your audio interface, everything is good, your microphone is good, and then your pop filter too. Maybe you got a pop filter, you're happy for a few years, and then you notice that there's a pop filter that has double mesh, and so you get that one, and you're happy for a few years. You start noticing that you need a shock mount for your microphone so that like any vibrations don't there's like a less chance of vibrations traveling up to your microphone. So you need a shock mount, and then you get a shock mount. You're happy for a couple of years, and then you realize that there's something with a shock mount and a pop filter, and then you get that, and then you're happy for a few years, and then you realize that the room that you're in currently is not soundproof, and then so you get some carpet, and then you get some curtains, you get something, and you're happy for a couple of years. You're happy. You're so happy, and then you realize that the ceiling isn't soundproofed. And so what you do is that you get an acoustic blanket. And so you make sure that sound doesn't travel upwards so that reverb doesn't bounce back and affect the sound quality. And so you do that. And then you're happy for a few years. And then you realize that you hear some sirens going off. And you can't soundproof the window. You try to soundproof the window with curtains, with double mesh curtains, acoustic curtains, but it's not cutting it. It's a blackout curtain, but it's not cutting it. So then you're starting to turn towards a sound booth that's a double wall sound booth. but you know that you can't fit it in your house at the moment. So you're just thinking about it. And then you buy a new house to fit it. Exactly. You buy a new house so that you can fit a sound booth. I will be happy with it for a couple of years. But then you look at the bigger ones. You look at the bigger sound booths and realize that you can put a chair in those sound booths. So if that's the case, I should get a bigger one and not a smaller one, because that's like a waste of money. You might as well get something that's going to last you for decades. And then your chair makes too much noise. Exactly, your chair makes too much noise. Actually, that was me. That has been, yeah, thinking about like a new chair, because this chair, I've realized, is not really cutting it for me. But also the cables, because maybe you're happy with your normal XLR cable for a couple of years. You get something from Amazon, but then you realize that there's a slight buzzing sound in the cable, and then you look it up. That's a signal interference. And so you get a higher quality XLR cable that helps with signal interference. Yes, the insulated cables, the shielded cables. And then you don't have to worry about that anymore. And then you realize your signal is bad. Exactly. And then you're happy. You're happy for a couple of years. And then you realize that there's another buzzing sound coming. And you wonder what it is. It's your phone. You gotta turn it off. You gotta turn it into airplane mode, because it also can affect your audio. You don't need to replace anything for that one, actually. But wait, then I realized I can't sing. So that's the thing. You can't sing. So you need to take lessons. And then you got to keep fixing yourself. And then while you're fixing yourself, it's great. Everything is great. But then you realize that maybe your tone quality has changed and your microphone doesn't work with you anymore. And that's why you need to get a microphone that's more neutral so that it doesn't get affected by the tone of your voice. It has to be as neutral as possible so that when you give your audio file to an engineer, they don't need to worry about whether your audio is too bright or too dark. Stop realizing. Yeah.